Well, good evening, glue troopers. As I told you yesterday, no content this morning because we had big important stuff to do out in the world of business and high finance, but it's all been taken care of. And I managed to sneak back in here this evening, get a little bit of work done, not much. I got the, of course, the usual train wreck. I had KITT in my hand and I was going to put one more layer of paint on to try and get to smooth out some of those brush strokes. I was going to use spray paint. And of course, if I go, well, you know, I start to tape the wheels, and maybe I should take 2 wheels off. They just popped right on them and snap. And of course, something broke, but there wasn't a wheel popping off, so I had to glue that back on. And yeah. And once that hardened, I just put tape over it. Screw it, that'll work. And airbrushed. Actually, KITT I did with the rattle can, and I used Model Master, and that's Rust-Oleum product. And as you probably know, Rust-Oleum bought testers. And then I had already put a new coat of the silver gray on the bottom of KARR, had given it 24 hours to harden, so I taped it, clear coated it, let that harden, then shot it with the spray gun using the Model Master acrylic. And both of them have very improved looks to them. I'm much happier with them than I was before, despite all the trials and tribulations. I really made that harder than it had to be, and I think I know something that I did that just made life hard on me. Since the cars are black and I was painting them black, well, I don't need to use primer. But as we all know, the surface of the plastic, when you put straight paint on it, sometimes it doesn't always give you exactly the texture you want. So by skipping that little step, I probably might have made life a little harder. I know a lot of folks like the Rust-Oleum Black 2X, which I have some of, and probably could have just used that because it's a primer in one. But I also could have put that on there as a black primer, then put some clear coat over it to make sure there's no reaction between the paints, and then put on my either acrylics or enamels. And trying to take a shortcut made the trip go longer. Ain't that always the way? That brings up another point. When I was working on, I think I said Ford Fleet Side, Chevy Fleet Side from Revell the other day, actually last night. After I'd finished the video, I saw something there, well, I can put on a quick coat of the blue paint. And the weirdest thing happened. A brand new can, it was a rattle can, but it was a brand new can of Tamiya. And I shot it and it looked great. I mean, smooth, just so shiny, just what you'd expect from Tamiya. And then I looked back at it a few minutes later, and there were a couple of thin spots where the paint had just apparently not adhered. Now, before you ask, yes, I did wash the model. My guess is maybe I didn't rinse it thoroughly enough. Maybe there was a little soap residue in some spots. So you guys can chime in on that. But I let it harden, shot it with a couple more coats, problem solved. Wasn't a big deal, but it happened in several areas, so it was worthy of note. By the way, looping back to KITT and KARR, I watched a little documentary on them. Now, if I can find it, I'll put the link below, but it was actually a documentary on the show. But do you guys know what KITT's original name was? TATT, for Trans Am 2000. But Pontiac thought the car was too different from the Trans Am, so they were like, nah, you don't do that because that's, there's there could be ramifications if you call it a Trans Am, and it's not really a Trans Am. It's built on a Trans Am, but the differences are enough. I could see where they could get some grief from customers like, this isn't like the one on the show. So they named it from Trans Am 2000 or TATT. They gave it the name KITT. So they literally went for it. Wait for it. They got KITT for TATT. Just could not let that one go. But he talks about the cars and the variations. You know, as you guys may recall later in the series, because they were trying to keep the show interesting, they have to do new things. So they gave it the extending front end and the airfoils that would pop out. And I'm sure out there is some clever master modeler who's already done that. But that would actually make a not terribly difficult kit bash for a good modeler, you know, where you could make the kit with all the stuff on it that came in the later seasons without really having to go into the weeds like you do with a lot of kit bashes. So that's something somebody might want to do. I didn't realize how many other shows based on the original Knight Rider had been made, but they had a Knight Rider team and a whole bunch of stuff. And then basically towards the end with the Knight Rider, the last one they made, I think it was basically a transformer, but it can only transform into Ford products, which is kind of ironic given that the original car was a Pontiac, but later on it was a Ford product. So hey, whoever pays the bills, right? But that brings, I wanted to loop back to the painting. I wanted to ask you guys a question and a kit bash question. What do you think caused the thin spots? Did I either miss a spot when I washed it, or was it some soap I failed to get off? And it happened also on some parts that I had not washed. I put a black coat on the frame and it did the same thing. So I'm kind of inclined to think maybe I missed some release agent. Which modern models, you don't normally have to wash them, but apparently the cars you do. Or is it because I didn't prime them first? I didn't prime the truck either. Again, I thought I would cheat. I got this whole rattle can. I can just put on these nice gentle layers of blue paint, and I did layer it. So I'm wondering if by trying to take a shortcut and figuring I could skip the priming because it's blue over white, you know, there's nothing that's going to show through, except the white did show through. I'm wondering if I shot myself in the foot by trying to get cheap and skipping the priming process. I've gotten away with it in the past on a lot of models, especially, you know, military models and stuff. But then heck, time the plastic screen, the paint's all drab. If there is some bleed, you can't even see it. So, but on cars and airliners, it's like every blemish shows through. And I've got to get in that showroom car mentality. And you know, you don't take shortcuts on glossy, shiny finished vehicles. You know, you can do that, you know, on roughed up military vehicles. They're going to have battle damage and everything. You know, glue smear becomes battle damage. But I'm just curious what you guys thought about that. Is there anybody else out there who's tried to get away with painting kits that didn't prime them first, and what were your results? So that'd be kind of the question of the day. So a couple of you guys sent me some really interesting stories, and I thought about getting into them tonight, but I haven't had time to find some pictures to go with them. But I do intend to tell those stories at some point soon. One of the troopers out there has had, as a teenager, had actually made as a part-time job building models for people, the SNJs, and there are a couple of the good stories. Now, there is one other thing that cropped up. And I've decided to give one of my kits away, the Stinson. I was contacted by, and unfortunately I had just 6 hours, if that, before I had glued the two fuselage halves together. That's as far as I got with it. But I was contacted by a glue trooper who is actually a collector of the vintage Lindbergh Aurora, all the old hardbox kits from the 50s and 60s. And he sent me some pictures of his collection, and it's impressive. And he generally doesn't build them. He keeps them in virgin condition. He's sort of a custodian of them. And he's working on a project about the history of these old kits, going into great detail. And he doesn't have the Lindbergh Stinson, so I am going to gift that to him. It was gifted to me by Miss Melissa, and of course it's got her through Mystic Modeler Ships, Bruce. And I feel this is a way to kind of pay it forward. And I'm also have another vintage old hardbox kit of a Hawk Spad, and this is one that goes way back. And even I was, and this brings up an interesting point. I'm a builder. If you give me a kit, it goes in the queue to get built. Provided I live long enough, everything in here is getting built. The Stenson I had some reservation about because the box is in such good shape, and even though the struts are missing from the kit, it's still mostly complete. And then you had those notes that were handwritten, and I felt kind of bad about it, but the other part of me was like, but maybe I should do it, you know. And then I have this person that contacts me who's a genuine custodian of these old things, and I was thinking, that's where that kit needs to go. I'm lamenting that I had glued the halves together now, because like me, he's a history preservation type, but whereas I do the information, he actually preserves the items. And I was also had pretty much decided I was not going to build that old Hawk Spad because it's kind of rare and it's old and it's in really good condition. And I think that would be better in his collection than mine, because he'll preserve it. And that's that was a decision I reached about that. You guys have been so generous to me that I feel like when you've got someone out there who's doing something, you can kind of help the cause, if you will, then, like I say, pay it forward, pass it on. And I have plenty of things to keep me busy, so no issues there. So that's the way the old brain box works over here. That's pretty much all I got for tonight, guys. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. I still have the WinMac video. I've got to edit everything together. I've got a while. I don't think I'm going to get that done before I go back to work. In fact, I was just looking at my schedule. Because I had some time off early this month, the rest of the month is packed with like 4 days on, 1 or 2 days off, 4 days on. So I'm gonna be MIA for a good chunk of the rest of the month after the live stream tomorrow. So I don't really think I'm gonna get much content out. Won't be anything in the morning because I got to prep for the live stream, and that's pretty much where everything sits. So, but April, man, April, I'm planning on doing all kinds of cool stuff, and so goes the promise. That was the plan, sir. Now let's see if it can survive initial contact intact. Take care. Have a wonderful evening. Happy weekend. See you tomorrow at the live stream. I hope 2 p.m. East Coast time, and model on.